Princess Charlotte stood on the balcony of the royal palace as the first rays of sunlight spread across the city. The streets below were beginning to fill with people who had come to see their beloved princess. Children waved and shouted greetings while merchants paused in their work to catch a glimpse of her. Charlotte smiled gently, her heart warming at the sight of her people starting their day. She loved moments like this, where she could feel connected to those she was meant to protect and serve. Inside the palace, Camilla adjusted her uniform nervously. She had recently been promoted to the Royal Guard, a position that came with immense honor but also great responsibility. Today, she would stand closer to Princess Charlotte than she ever had before. She had trained for years in swordsmanship, strategy, and the strict codes of palace conduct. Still, the thought of being so near the princess made her stomach twist with both excitement and apprehension. Camilla walked down the grand hallway toward the balcony. The marble floors shone brightly under the morning light streaming through the tall windows. Servants moved quickly and quietly, aware that the royal family was beginning their day. Camilla tried to keep her breathing steady, reminding herself of the training she had gone through. She had faced countless drills and tests, but none had prepared her for the weight of standing so close to the princess, who was more than just a figurehead. She was the heart of the kingdom. As Camilla approached, Princess Charlotte turned her gaze toward her. Charlotte's eyes were bright and full of curiosity, yet calm and commanding. There was a softness in her expression that made Camilla's nerves flutter even more. The princess extended her hand, a simple gesture that many guards had found confusing in the past. Camilla paused, unsure of how to respond. She had trained to respond to commands quickly and with precision, but this was different. This was not a drill or a test. It was a moment of trust and acknowledgement. Camilla's hesitation did not go unnoticed. The other royal guards standing nearby exchanged glances. They were seasoned soldiers, accustomed to the strict rules of the palace. But even they knew that moments like this required careful attention. Finally, the royal commander, Sir Roland, stepped forward. He was a tall man with a stern face, known for his strict discipline but fair judgment. His voice carried authority as he spoke. "Camilla, salute the princess." The command snapped Camilla back to attention. Her heart raced as she lifted her hand in a crisp salute, fingers straight and sharp. Princess Charlotte's hand remained extended for a moment, almost as if she were measuring the guard's sincerity. Camilla felt a strange sensation, a mix of relief and pride. She had followed the order correctly, but she also felt an unexpected connection with the princess. It was as if Charlotte could sense her loyalty and intentions without a word being spoken. The princess's smile widened, gentle yet full of authority. "Thank you, Camilla," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "Your attention to duty is noted." Her words, though simple, carried weight. They were not just praise. They were recognition of effort, and it meant more to Camilla than she could express. She bowed her head slightly, acknowledging the princess's words, and a quiet confidence began to replace the nervous tension that had gripped her since morning. The rest of the guards remained in formation, their eyes fixed on the princess. They were skilled and disciplined. But there was something different about Camilla's presence that Charlotte seemed to notice. Perhaps it was her sincerity, or the careful way she balanced respect with strength. Whatever it was, Charlotte's gaze lingered on her longer than usual, as if evaluating not just the skill of the guard, but her character. Camilla straightened, trying to steady herself. She had trained her entire life for moments like this, but now that it was here, she realized it was not just about skill. It was about understanding the responsibilities that came with being near the princess. Protection was only part of the duty. She had to anticipate needs, understand the moods and intentions of the princess, and remain vigilant against any threat, no matter how small. The weight of this realization settled on her shoulders, and she felt both nervous and honored at the same time. Princess Charlotte noticed the way Camilla's posture shifted, the slight tightening of her shoulders, and the careful attention in her eyes. It was rare to see a new guard display such focus and presence without any hesitation after the initial command. The princess felt a quiet approval, a sense that this guard might be more than just another soldier. Perhaps she could become someone Charlotte could trust in ways that went beyond protocol and training. The morning continued with its usual activities. Charlotte moved along the balcony, greeting officials and observing the daily routines of the city from above. Camilla followed closely, her eyes constantly scanning the surroundings, alert for any unusual movements or disturbances. Though no immediate threat appeared, her focus never wavered. The discipline she had learned in training was now being tested in real time, and she was determined to meet it without fail. At one point, a small child ran toward the palace gates, carrying a bundle of flowers. The child tripped on the cobblestones, and Charlotte's instinct was immediate. She stepped forward, extending her hand toward the child with a soft smile. Camilla moved instantly as well, reaching out to ensure the child would not fall. The moment passed quickly, but it was a perfect example of the harmony required between princess and guard. Camilla felt a rush of pride. She had acted without hesitation, guided by both training and an understanding of Charlotte's calm and caring nature. As the morning progressed, Sir Roland observed the interaction quietly. He had trained countless guards, yet there was something remarkable about Camilla. Her dedication was evident, But more than that, there was an ease to the way she adjusted to Charlotte's presence. She did not act rigidly. She adapted. She was alert, but not overbearing. This balance was rare, and Roland made a mental note that she might one day become an exceptional member of the royal guard, perhaps even trusted with duties that required judgment and subtlety, not just strength. By midday, the balcony was quieter. The crowd had dispersed, leaving the princess and her guard with a peaceful view of the city. Charlotte turned toward Camilla, her eyes meeting the guard's with an expression that was both warm and serious. "You have done well today, Camilla. Your attention and loyalty are clear," she said. There was no exaggeration in her tone, no unnecessary praise, just honesty. Camilla bowed again, feeling the weight of responsibility settle even more firmly in her mind. She had not just followed orders, she had begun to understand what it meant to be truly responsible for the princess's safety. Charlotte extended her hand once more, and this time Camilla did not hesitate. She placed her hand lightly against the princess's, a gesture that signified respect, trust, and readiness. It was a simple movement, but it carried meaning far beyond the physical touch. For Charlotte, it was assurance that her guard could be relied upon. For Camilla, it was a promise to herself that she would serve with all her skill, all her loyalty, and all her heart. As they stood together, the palace seemed to hold its breath. The morning sun reflected off the marble floors. The flags fluttered gently in the breeze, and the city beyond continued its daily rhythm. Yet in that moment, a bond had been formed, not of command and obedience alone, but of understanding and trust. Charlotte, with her calm authority and quiet strength, and Camilla, with her dedication and vigilance, had connected in a way that would shape the days to come. Camilla knew that challenges would arise. Being close to the princess was not just an honor. It was a responsibility that demanded courage, awareness, and heart. But as she looked at Charlotte's serene face and steady gaze, she felt ready. Ready to stand as a shield, ready to follow commands, and ready to act with both skill and care. This was the beginning of something important. A partnership that would test both guard and princess, and yet could also lead to respect, trust, and loyalty stronger than any sword or shield. The day passed with its usual palace rhythm, but for Camilla, every moment felt heavier than usual. Her eyes followed Princess Charlotte constantly, noting how the princess moved, how she greeted the staff, and even how she interacted with visitors. It was not enough to simply stand at attention. Camilla had to anticipate, protect, and support without drawing attention. Every gesture mattered. Every glance could carry meaning. Charlotte, on the other hand, seemed at ease. She moved gracefully through the palace halls, her steps light yet confident. She was often accompanied by senior advisors and courtiers, but her eyes often found Camilla's in fleeting moments, as if silently checking that her new guard was alert. There was an unspoken understanding between them, something that had formed in the brief morning encounter, but it was growing stronger with every passing hour. As afternoon approached, Charlotte had scheduled a private meeting with her advisors in the council room. Camilla followed closely, keeping her posture straight and her senses sharp. The council room was a large hall with tall windows that let in streams of sunlight, illuminating the polished wooden floors. Maps and documents were spread across a long table where advisors discussed trade, security, and other matters of state. Though Charlotte did not usually need constant protection in this room, Camilla knew her role was to remain vigilant at all times. The advisors were impressed by Charlotte's intelligence and maturity. She asked precise questions about trade agreements, military readiness, and city infrastructure. Camilla watched how Charlotte spoke and how others responded. The princess's leadership was gentle yet firm. Every word carried meaning, and even the most experienced advisors seemed to pay careful attention to her suggestions. Camilla realized that protecting such a person required more than physical skill. It required understanding the weight of her decisions and the way others might react to them. During the discussion, a messenger arrived unexpectedly. He carried a sealed letter with an unfamiliar insignia. Charlotte took it, breaking the seal carefully. Her eyes scanned the letter quickly, and her expression shifted ever so slightly. There was no panic, but a subtle tension crept into her posture. She glanced at Camilla, who immediately noticed the change. The princess handed the letter to one of the advisors, asking for advice on how to proceed. Camilla's mind raced. The letter could be a warning, a request, or perhaps news from a distant territory. Whatever it was, Charlotte had handled it calmly, showing no fear or impatience. Camilla felt a surge of respect. She had been trained to respond to danger, but Charlotte's calmness in the face of uncertainty was its own form of strength. After the meeting, Charlotte requested a walk through the palace gardens to clear her mind. Camilla followed, her boots making soft sounds on the gravel paths. The gardens were lush and vibrant, filled with flowers of every color and the gentle hum of water from decorative fountains. Charlotte walked slowly, taking in the scents and colors around her. "You handled yourself well today," Charlotte said softly, glancing at Camilla. "You anticipated quickly when I adjusted my movements in the council room. It shows awareness." Camilla bowed slightly, feeling a flush of pride. "Thank you, princess. It is my duty to remain alert at all times." Charlotte smiled, a warmth in her expression that seemed to light up the garden. "Your duty is clear. But I also want you to understand the importance of balance. Strength is not just in action, but in knowing when to act and when to observe." Camilla nodded, taking the words seriously. Protecting Charlotte was not just about swords and shields. It was about understanding her world, the people around her, and the subtle signs that might indicate danger. The more Camilla observed, the more she realized the depth of her responsibility that as they walked. A group of children entered the garden, laughing and running between the hedges. Charlotte paused, kneeling down to greet them. Her smile was gentle and inviting, and she spoke with the children in a soft voice that made them feel at ease. Camilla observed quietly, ready to step in if needed. One small boy tripped over a flower bed, and before he could fall, Camilla moved instinctively to steady him. Charlotte watched for a moment, a faint nod of approval on her face. The moment passed, but Camilla felt a sense of fulfillment. She realized that her protection extended beyond physical threats. It included helping Charlotte navigate the daily moments of her life, ensuring her surroundings were safe and supportive. This was a different kind of vigilance, one that required patience, observation, and a steady mind. Later in the afternoon, Charlotte returned to her private chambers. Camilla followed, as was protocol, keeping a respectful distance while remaining alert. Charlotte removed her outer cloak and moved to her writing desk, picking up papers to review correspondence from neighboring kingdoms. Camilla stood nearby, her eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. Though the palace was usually secure, she knew that threats could appear unexpectedly, and her readiness had to be constant. After some time, Charlotte paused, looking at Camilla with a thoughtful expression. "You are learning quickly," she said, "but there is more to guarding me than observation. You must also understand people's intentions. Not all threats are visible. Some are hidden in words, in expressions, in gestures." Camilla listened carefully. She realized that protecting Charlotte required not only skill but also intelligence, empathy, and patience. The princess was not just a leader. She was a person whose safety depended on someone who could read the world as clearly as she did. Camilla felt a renewed sense of purpose. The day continued with a variety of duties. Charlotte met with artisans and scholars, her curiosity guiding the discussions. Camilla remained close, silently monitoring the environment and ensuring no disruptions occurred. She noticed subtle details: a tray of refreshments placed slightly off balance, a courier lingering too long near the entrance. Each observation reinforced the lessons Charlotte had spoken about. Awareness, judgment, and timing were as vital as action. As evening approached, the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the palace corridors. Charlotte and Camilla returned to the balcony to watch the city settle into the evening. The streets glowed with lanterns, and the people moved quietly after a busy day. Charlotte leaned slightly on the railing, her eyes scanning the horizon. Camilla stood a step behind, ready to respond if needed, but giving the princess the space to enjoy the view. "Today has been instructive," Charlotte said softly. "I see potential in you, Camilla. You have skill, but more importantly, you have awareness and calmness under pressure. That will serve you well in the days ahead." Camilla felt a surge of pride. She had spent years training, yet it was moments like these that showed her growth. She realized that her role was not just about protection. It was about partnership. Charlotte relied on her, and in return, Camilla had learned to respect the princess not just as a leader, but as a person. Night fell, and the palace grew quiet. Camilla escorted Charlotte to her chambers, ensuring that every corridor was safe and secure. The princess thanked her with a simple nod, a gesture that carried more meaning than words could express. Camilla felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had performed her duty with diligence and care, earning the trust of someone whose life depended on her vigilance. As Camilla prepared to retire for the evening, she reflected on the day's events. The moments in the council room, the garden, and the balcony had all taught her lessons she would carry forward. She realized that being a royal guard was not simply about obedience and skill, it was about understanding, awareness, and the subtle bonds of trust. And in that understanding, she found a new sense of purpose, one that would guide her in every step she took beside Princess Charlotte. In the quiet of the palace night, Camilla knew that challenges would come. There would be days of uncertainty, moments of tension, and decisions that required both courage and wisdom. But after today, she felt ready to face whatever came, ready to serve with loyalty, and ready to stand as a steady presence beside Princess Charlotte, no matter what the future held. The following morning, the palace was alive with activity. Servants moved briskly through the corridors, arranging flowers, preparing meals, and setting up for the day's meetings. The sound of horses and carriages could be heard outside the main gates, signaling the arrival of merchants, nobles, and foreign emissaries. Princess Charlotte rose early, her energy as vibrant as the rising sun. While Camilla prepared herself for the day ahead, Camilla's eyes swept across the palace grounds as she followed Charlotte down the grand hallway. She had learned to notice details that others overlooked: a misplaced document, a hesitant servant, a door slightly ajar. Though the palace was usually safe, Camilla knew that even the smallest oversight could become a problem. Her duty was not just protection with strength, but protection with intelligence. Charlotte led Camilla into the grand hall, where the day's first visitors had arrived. Two ambassadors from a neighboring kingdom had come to discuss trade agreements and possible cultural exchanges. They were polite, but Camilla could sense tension in the air, a subtle uncertainty in their posture and expressions. She stayed close to Charlotte, ready to respond if anything seemed amiss. The ambassadors greeted Charlotte with formal bows, and she responded with her usual grace. Her voice was calm and clear as she welcomed them to the palace. Camilla observed carefully, noting every movement, every glance, every small shift in posture. The ambassadors were skilled in etiquette, but even they could not hide all of their intentions. Camilla felt a subtle alertness rise within her, a sense that today might bring unexpected challenges. The discussion began smoothly. Charlotte asked questions about trade policies, transportation of goods, and the welfare of citizens in their neighboring lands. Her curiosity was genuine, and she listened carefully to every answer. Camilla watched for reactions from the ambassadors, looking for signs of dishonesty or discomfort. One of them shifted his weight nervously, a small tremor in his hand as he presented a map. Camilla noted it silently. While it might have been simple nerves, she trusted her instincts and stayed alert. After the meeting, Charlotte invited the ambassadors to walk through the palace gardens. Camilla followed closely, her eyes scanning the paths and hedges. The gardens were quiet except for the sound of birds and the gentle trickle of fountains. Charlotte led the ambassadors along the flower-lined paths, asking about their culture and customs. Camilla kept watch, attentive to every movement and sound. As they reached a secluded area near a small fountain, one of the ambassadors stepped slightly off the path. His expression changed for a brief second, a hesitation that might have been unnoticed by anyone else. Camilla's training kicked in immediately. She moved a step closer to the ambassador without disturbing the flow of conversation. Her hand hovered near her sword hilt, not in aggression, but in readiness. Charlotte noticed the shift in Camilla's stance but said nothing, trusting her guard's instincts. The ambassador recovered his composure and continued speaking, unaware that he had been under observation. Charlotte's attention remained on the conversation, but her eyes subtly acknowledged Camilla's presence. There was an unspoken understanding between them. Camilla was not only there for protection but as a partner in observation. She was learning to predict situations before they escalated, and Charlotte was learning to trust her judgment. After the ambassadors departed, Charlotte and Camilla returned to the palace corridors. The princess's steps were light but purposeful, and Camilla followed closely, scanning every hallway and doorway. Something about the day felt different. Camilla could not shake the feeling that there was more happening than what met the eye. Though nothing overt had occurred, her instincts suggested that they needed to remain vigilant. Charlotte led Camilla to the library, a vast room filled with ancient texts, maps, and scrolls. It was a quiet place where the princess often went to think, plan, and study. Today, she wanted to review reports about the city and surrounding territories. Camilla stood by the entrance, watching carefully. The palace was normally secure, but even in the library, she maintained awareness. The slightest disturbance could indicate danger. While Charlotte read, Camilla's mind remained alert. She noted the faint sounds outside the windows, the soft footsteps in distant corridors, and even the patterns of shadows cast by the afternoon sun. Her training taught her that danger did not always announce itself. It was often hidden in small details. The princess had emphasized this before, and now Camilla understood the depth of the lesson. Protection required both observation and understanding. Suddenly, a faint noise came from the corridor. It was almost imperceptible, a soft shuffle, like someone trying to move quietly. Camilla's senses sharpened instantly. She did not panic. She simply signaled Charlotte to remain calm and stay focused on her reading. Camilla moved toward the sound, her footsteps silent on the polished floors. Her eyes scanned the hallway, searching for any sign of intrusion. A figure appeared near the entrance to the library. It was a servant from the kitchen carrying a tray of food. The person looked flustered and apologized for disturbing them. Camilla relaxed slightly but kept her eyes trained on the servant until they moved away. It was a harmless situation, but the moment confirmed her awareness. Even small disturbances could be noticed and handled quickly without alarming the princess or the palace staff. Charlotte looked up from her papers and smiled at Camilla. "You handled that well. Your vigilance is improving," she said. Camilla bowed slightly, feeling the weight of responsibility mix with pride. Each day was a lesson, and each observation added to her understanding of what it meant to protect the princess. As the afternoon continued, Charlotte prepared to attend a meeting with the palace council. Camilla escorted her, walking slightly behind but remaining close enough to respond instantly to any situation. The council chamber was grand, filled with advisors, guards, and officials. Discussions began about upcoming events, city planning, and security measures. Charlotte listened carefully, offering suggestions and asking questions when necessary. Camilla observed the reactions of everyone present, noting any tension, hesitation, or subtle signals of concern. During the council meeting, a minor disagreement arose between two advisors over a new market project. Voices were raised slightly, though the discussion remained civil. Charlotte addressed both advisors calmly, offering a compromise that was fair and thoughtful. Camilla noticed that a few other advisors were watching the exchange closely. There was a subtle tension in the room, but Charlotte's composure kept it from escalating. Camilla understood that part of her role was to recognize these tensions and be ready to intervene if they threatened the princess's safety. After the meeting, Charlotte and Camilla returned to the balcony. The sun was setting, casting warm orange light over the city. Charlotte stood quietly, watching the streets below. Camilla positioned herself slightly behind and to the side, maintaining a protective stance. The moment was peaceful, yet Camilla's mind remained alert. She knew that danger could appear when least expected, and her training demanded constant readiness. Charlotte turned to Camilla and spoke softly. "You are becoming more than just a guard. You are learning to see the world as I do, to notice what others might miss. That is the mark of true vigilance." Camilla felt a deep sense of pride. She realized that her connection with Charlotte was growing stronger, built on trust, observation, and mutual understanding. As night fell, the palace quieted. Torches and lanterns lit the corridors, casting gentle shadows along the walls. Camilla escorted Charlotte to her private chambers, ensuring the hallways remained safe and secure. Every step, every sound, and every movement was noted. As she remained alert to the environment, once Charlotte was safely in her chambers, she thanked Camilla with a nod and a gentle smile. Camilla felt a sense of accomplishment. Today had been more than routine. It had been a day of observation, learning, and understanding. She had proven herself not only in vigilance but in the quiet awareness that the princess relied upon. Before retiring for the night, Camilla reflected on the day's events, the interactions with ambassadors, the subtle tension in the council chamber, and even the small disturbance in the library had all reinforced the lessons of observation, patience, and awareness. She understood now that guarding Charlotte required more than strength. It required intelligence, focus, and an understanding of human behavior. Camilla knew that challenges would continue to arise. The palace was a place of beauty, but it was also a place of politics, ambition, and secrets. Threats were not always obvious, and some were hidden in words and gestures. Yet she felt ready to face each day with skill, alertness, and dedication, ready to serve the princess with loyalty and care, no matter the challenge. As the moon rose over the palace, Camilla stood for a moment at the balcony outside the princess's chambers, gazing at the city bathed in silver light. The quiet of the night brought clarity. She had learned more in these few days than she had in years of training. She understood now that her role was both protection and partnership, and in that understanding, she found a sense of purpose and pride that would guide her in every step she took beside Princess Charlotte. The next morning, the palace awoke with an unusual energy. Servants hurried through the corridors, and guards moved in slightly tighter formations. Rumors had spread quietly among the staff about a message from a distant kingdom, one that suggested unusual events near the border. Princess Charlotte remained calm, but Camilla sensed the subtle tension in the palace. Today would require more than routine vigilance. Charlotte prepared for a meeting with her advisors in the strategy room. Camilla walked beside her, alert to every detail. The room was lined with maps, charts, and models of the surrounding territories. The advisors began discussing border trade routes and patrol schedules. But Charlotte's attention was focused on the message that had arrived earlier. She read it carefully, noting the exact words and the implied warnings. "Camilla," Charlotte said softly, "today may require extra caution. Keep watch at all times, and trust your instincts." Her voice was calm, but the seriousness in her eyes told Camilla that she needed to be prepared for any situation. Camilla nodded silently. She had trained for years for moments like this, but every day brought new challenges. Being near the princess required more than skill. It required judgment, awareness, and a steady mind. She straightened her posture, scanning the room and the corridors outside for any unusual movement. The meeting began with the advisors presenting their reports. Charlotte listened carefully, asking pointed questions about troop readiness and security arrangements. Camilla observed the advisors, noting their reactions to the princess's questions. Most were professional, but a few showed subtle signs of hesitation, glances that might have been missed by anyone else. Camilla's eyes followed each gesture, each small movement, ensuring that nothing went unnoticed. After the meeting, Charlotte decided to inspect the palace grounds personally. Camilla followed, her senses alert to every detail. The gardens were bright with flowers, and the fountains sparkled in the morning sunlight. Visitors were fewer today, and the palace seemed quieter than usual. Camilla walked a few steps ahead, subtly scanning the entrances and pathways for any sign of threat. As they reached the main gate, a messenger arrived hurriedly. He carried a sealed letter from the Border Patrol commander. Charlotte took it and read quickly. Her eyes narrowed slightly, a small sign that she had understood the gravity of the message. Camilla noticed immediately. The letter warned of unusual activity near a border town. Nothing direct had been reported, but signs suggested potential trouble that required careful monitoring. Charlotte looked at Camilla. "Stay close and ready. We will need to assess the situation ourselves." Camilla felt her pulse quicken, but she remained composed. She knew that the princess's calm demeanor was not only a guide for her but also a signal to others that there was no panic. Together, they moved to the royal council's observation chamber, which overlooked the city and surrounding lands. Charlotte studied the maps, pointing out the border town and nearby patrol routes. Camilla remained alert, scanning the horizon and noting details that could become important. Even in a room filled with advisors and officials, her attention never wavered. Charlotte's voice was calm but firm. "We must ensure that the border patrol is reinforced and that our citizens remain safe. Camilla, you will accompany the inspection team if needed." Camilla bowed. "Yes, Princess, I will be ready." Later that day, Charlotte decided to visit the town herself. Camilla prepared carefully, ensuring that all equipment was ready and that escape routes were clear. The journey to the town was short, but the roads were winding and lined with forests that could conceal danger. Camilla's eyes scanned constantly, watching for any signs of movement. The training and lessons from the past days guided her actions. Upon arrival, the town seemed calm at first glance. Citizens went about their daily work, unaware of the concerns that had reached the palace. Charlotte greeted the townspeople with her usual kindness, asking about their well-being and listening attentively to their concerns. Camilla remained close, observing not just the streets but the expressions and movements of those around them. Suddenly, a faint commotion was heard from the market area. A small group of merchants was arguing over a delivery that had been delayed. Camilla moved slightly forward, prepared to intervene if needed, but Charlotte placed a gentle hand on her arm, signaling patience. The princess approached the group herself, calming the merchants with her words. Camilla observed quietly, ready to step in only if the situation escalated. After the minor incident, Charlotte and Camilla moved toward the edge of town, where the border patrol had been stationed. The patrol leader greeted them, reporting that scouts had seen unusual movements in the nearby forest. Camilla noted the leader's tone and the careful choice of words. There was no panic, but there was concern. The patrol had been trained well, but the princess's presence added both reassurance and pressure. Charlotte inspected the patrol area carefully, asking questions about their routines, the number of guards, and the safety measures in place. Camilla stood slightly behind, but always in view of the princess. She observed the terrain, noting potential blind spots and paths that could be used for either defense or escape. Her mind worked quickly, evaluating the situation as if preparing for a challenge that might appear at any moment. As the sun began to dip low in the sky, a subtle movement caught Camilla's eye near the tree line. Shadows shifted slightly, as if someone was moving cautiously through the forest. She did not alarm the princess but stayed vigilant, signaling silently to nearby patrol members. Charlotte noticed the slight tension in Camilla's posture and gave a calm nod. They were ready. Moments later, a small group emerged from the trees. They were villagers from the outskirts, reporting unusual sounds and sightings near the border. Nothing threatening, but enough to warrant caution. Charlotte listened attentively, asking precise questions about timing, location, and details of what they had seen. Camilla monitored both the visitors and the surrounding forest, ensuring no surprises approached from unexpected directions. The sun set, casting long shadows across the town and fields. Charlotte decided that it was safe to return to the palace, but Camilla remained alert throughout the journey back. The roads were quiet, but her instincts remained on high alert. She knew that vigilance could never be relaxed, especially when the princess was nearby. Once they arrived at the palace, Charlotte thanked Camilla with a gentle smile. "Your attention and readiness today were remarkable. You handled every moment with calm and care." Camilla bowed. "It is my duty to protect and serve, Princess. I will always remain vigilant." As night fell, the palace grew quiet. Camilla patrolled the corridors outside the princess's chambers, keeping watch while Charlotte prepared for the evening. The lessons of the day had reinforced the importance of observation, patience, and judgment. Camilla understood now that protecting Charlotte was not only about strength but about anticipating events, reading people, and remaining composed under pressure. Before retiring, Camilla stood for a moment at the balcony, gazing at the stars above the city. The quiet of the night offered reflection. Today had tested her in ways she had not expected, combining observation, vigilance, and careful action. She realized that each day brought new challenges, and each challenge taught lessons that could never be learned through training alone. Camilla knew that the days ahead would be filled with more responsibilities. Threats could emerge unexpectedly, and the princess's life depended on both skill and judgment. Yet she felt ready. She was learning to act not just as a guard but as a partner in protection, trusted to anticipate and respond to events before they became problems. As she looked up at the palace towers lit by the moonlight, Camilla felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would continue to serve Princess Charlotte with loyalty, skill, and vigilance. Every step she took, every observation she made, and every decision she considered would be guided by the lessons she had learned. Today had been a challenge, but it was also a moment of growth, one that prepared her for even greater responsibilities in the days to come. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the palace as Princess Charlotte prepared for an important event. A delegation from several neighboring kingdoms had arrived to discuss new alliances and trade agreements. Camilla stood nearby, her posture straight and her eyes scanning every corner of the grand hall. Today would be demanding, and both the princess and her guard had to be alert. Charlotte moved with her usual grace, greeting each visitor with a smile and a respectful bow. Her calm demeanor reassured everyone present, and her intelligence in discussion impressed even the most experienced diplomats. Camilla remained close, attentive to both the princess and the room. She noticed subtle signs of tension in a few visitors, small gestures that could have been overlooked by anyone else. Her presence was quiet but vigilant, a steady force behind the princess. As discussions began, Charlotte asked detailed questions about trade routes, city protection, and cultural exchanges. Camilla observed each ambassador carefully, noting their expressions and reactions. One ambassador seemed unusually nervous, frequently adjusting his documents and glancing around the room. Camilla's instincts told her to stay alert, while nothing had occurred yet. Her training reminded her that even minor signs could indicate larger issues. Charlotte's voice remained calm and confident. She addressed the nervous ambassador with kindness, asking clear questions about his concerns. The ambassador responded cautiously, and the tension in his posture eased slightly. Camilla relaxed just a little, though she continued to watch silently. She knew that the safety of the princess was not only about threats from outside but also about understanding the intentions of those around her. After a few hours of discussion, Charlotte suggested a short walk through the palace gardens to allow the visitors to stretch and enjoy the morning sun. Camilla followed closely, scanning the garden paths, hedges, and entrances. Everything seemed peaceful, yet her mind remained sharp, alert to any unusual movement. As they walked, Charlotte spoke softly to Camilla. "You have learned much in these days. You anticipate, observe, and act with careful judgment. That is the mark of a true protector." Camilla felt a surge of pride but kept her attention on the surroundings. She knew that today could still bring challenges. Suddenly a loud noise came from the edge of the garden. A tree branch had fallen, startling the delegation. Camilla reacted instantly, positioning herself between the princess and the source of the noise. Charlotte, calm and composed, turned toward the sound but made no sudden movements. Camilla quickly assessed the situation and saw that it was nothing more than a fallen branch. She signaled discreetly to the guards nearby, ensuring that the path was clear. The delegation smiled at Charlotte's calmness, impressed by how she handled the situation. Camilla's presence was quiet but effective. The princess continued the walk, and Camilla maintained vigilance, ensuring that every path, every corner, and every shadow was observed. After the garden walk, Charlotte invited the delegation to a smaller hall for refreshments. Camilla remained close, her eyes scanning the room and the doors. She noticed one of the attendants glancing around nervously, moving slightly faster than necessary. Camilla moved subtly closer, prepared to intervene if needed. The princess, noticing her guard's alertness, gave a small nod of approval. Camilla understood that her training and instincts had not only kept Charlotte safe but also reassured her that the palace was secure. While refreshments were served, one of the delegates attempted to raise a minor dispute about trade agreements. His tone was polite, but Camilla detected a subtle edge in his voice. She remained alert, positioning herself quietly but strategically, ready to step in if the discussion escalated. Charlotte, with her calm authority, addressed the delegates' concerns, providing clear explanations and solutions. Camilla observed how her actions and presence allowed the princess to maintain control of the situation without any disturbance. As the afternoon progressed, a messenger arrived with an urgent note. Charlotte read it carefully. A small incident had occurred at a distant border town, and the palace needed to coordinate assistance. The note indicated that the situation required prompt attention. Though there was no immediate danger to the princess, Charlotte turned to Camilla. "We may need to travel quickly. Prepare yourself," she said. Camilla nodded, her mind alert and ready. She checked their equipment and ensured that the path ahead was secure. Every detail mattered, from the carriage arrangement to the route they would take. She knew that in moments like these, her quick thinking and vigilance could make all the difference. Within minutes, Charlotte and Camilla were on their way to the border town. The roads were winding, and Camilla's eyes never left the surroundings. She noticed subtle movements in the trees, changes in the terrain, and the behavior of travelers along the way. Her awareness kept them safe, and Charlotte relied on her judgment as they moved swiftly and efficiently. Upon arriving at the town, Charlotte immediately began speaking with the local leaders. Camilla remained at her side, observing the crowd and monitoring for any unusual activity. The townspeople were grateful for the princess's attention and cooperation. There had been a minor dispute over resources, and Charlotte handled it with intelligence and kindness, offering fair solutions and listening carefully to all sides. Camilla noticed the relief in the townspeople's expressions, understanding that her role was not only protection but also creating an environment where Charlotte could act effectively. As the day came to a close, Charlotte and Camilla returned to the palace. The sun set in golden and orange hues, casting long shadows across the corridors. Charlotte smiled at Camilla. "Today you proved that your vigilance and judgment are not just skills but true dedication. You anticipate, protect, and act with care. I am grateful for your presence." Camilla felt a deep sense of pride. She had trained for this, but every day with the princess taught her more than training could. She understood now that being a royal guard was not only about skill but about partnership, trust, and understanding. Each moment required attention, patience, and judgment. That evening, the palace held a small ceremony to honor the delegates and the efforts of the border town. Charlotte moved through the hall, speaking kindly to everyone present, her demeanor calm and confident. Camilla remained at her side, maintaining awareness of the crowd and the surroundings. Even during celebration, vigilance remained essential. Later, in the quiet of the night, Charlotte and Camilla stood on the balcony overlooking the palace grounds. The city below was peaceful, lights twinkling like stars on the earth. Charlotte turned to Camilla, her expression soft and appreciative. "You have become more than a guard," Charlotte said. "You are a partner, someone I can trust completely. Your vigilance, intelligence, and calmness allow me to lead with confidence." Camilla bowed slightly, a quiet smile on her face. "It is my honor, Princess. I will always remain by your side, ready to serve and protect." The bond between them had grown stronger through each challenge, each observation, and each moment of calm and action. Camilla had learned that true protection was not only about strength but also understanding, patience, and trust. Charlotte had learned to rely on her guard's instincts and judgment, confident in the knowledge that Camilla would act with care and skill at every moment. As the night deepened, Camilla patrolled the palace corridors one final time, ensuring that all was secure. She reflected on the events of the day, the careful handling of the delegation, the journey to the border town, and the resolution of the minor disputes. Each moment had reinforced the importance of vigilance, awareness, and partnership. Returning to the princess's chambers, Camilla paused at the doorway. Charlotte was preparing for rest, her demeanor calm and serene. Camilla felt a sense of fulfillment. She had served with diligence and care, and her dedication had allowed the princess to lead with confidence. Charlotte noticed her guard's presence and offered a gentle smile. "Rest now, Camilla. You have earned it." Camilla nodded, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction. She knew that each day would bring new challenges, but she was ready to face them. The bond between princess and guard had been tested and strengthened, and that trust would guide them in all the days to come. As she rested, Camilla reflected on her journey. From the first day she had been ordered to salute Princess Charlotte to now, she had grown in skill, judgment, and understanding. She had learned that true protection required not just strength but attention, patience, and an unwavering sense of duty. The princess's trust was a reward in itself, one that Camilla would honor with every action and every moment of vigilance. The night passed quietly, the palace serene under the glow of the moon. Camilla knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she felt prepared. She had proven herself as a protector, as a partner, and as someone who could be trusted completely by Princess Charlotte. As the stars twinkled above, Camilla stood for a moment at the balcony, looking at the peaceful city below. She felt a sense of pride, purpose, and anticipation. The bond between her and the princess was strong, built on trust, vigilance, and mutual respect. And with that bond, she knew that together they could face any challenge, overcome any obstacle, and ensure that the palace and the kingdom remained safe and secure.